Hey guys, welcome back to another video, and today I'm going to be doing my unpopular K-pop opinions. Except they're not really unpopular, because not all of these opinions are going to be unpopular. These are just my K-pop opinions. Because I figured that if I called it unpopular opinions, everyone was going to freak out and say, that's not unpopular! Because I feel like a lot of this has been covered before. Now, keep in mind that this is 5,000% my opinion, so before anyone jumps down my throat and is like, boo 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 boo, well, it's my opinion, so that should be obvious from me talking about it. But, okay, go off, I guess. So, I think I'm going to get started with the controversial opinion that ARMYs aren't the worst fandom. Now, a lot of people seem to, it's mostly people who don't listen to K-pop, who like to take shots at K-pop fans, which is fun, who think ARMYs are the worst fandom. ARMYs are the largest fandom, and because they're the largest fandom, they're going to be more toxic people. You could have 5% of ARMYs be toxic, and yet you're going to represent more, because ARMYs in general represent more. It's not okay to be toxic in any fandom, and I don't condone that, but saying the entire fandom is bad because of a few select people screaming, a few select people might be many, many people, but it's still a small percentage of the entire fandom. Then you have something like Luna, which is a much smaller fandom, but goodness gracious, the whole Luna, Stan Luna, or the celebrity wouldn't have died is disgusting. How is that okay? Not saying that, but the vast majority of Luna fans I've encountered are crazy. Not trying to say Luna in particular, but EXO stans are weird too, and I'm just gonna say Blinks can be toxic, so don't automatically say that ARMY is the worst fandom. My next opinion, controversial AF. I don't like Twice's music. Now, before you jump down my throat, this is not shade to the girls. This is not me saying they're bad or anything. I even think it's well produced. It sounds good. It's just not my cup of tea. I don't really like cute concepts. Now, Fancy, that's a good song. That's a little more mature. I can like that one, but their really older stuff is just not my cup of tea at all. I don't hate all cute concepts, but it's really not my cup of tea. And I can't be into it. I just can't get into Twice's older music. And Yes or Yes is probably the most problematic K-pop song I've listened to before. So my number 3 opinion, I don't really think this is unpopular, but at least to me, that Big Hit has the best videos, and this is a little more divisive, but I think the ones that are, you know, Stone is the distributor, but the ones that are distributed by Stone, like even Everglow's videos. And one of the groups I was listening to earlier, I can't actually remember the name of it, their videos are just really lackluster. So compared to some of the other companies, I know they're not as big of a company. I know Everglow is actually owned by a parent company that's Chinese and very wealthy. But the company itself, I just don't get the good vibes. But for instance, Dreamcatcher isn't a huge company and they have great videos. So I don't really think that's an excuse. But I would say that while the big 3, obviously JYP and SM have great videos, and YG's videos are amazing. All of the Blackpink videos are incredibly aesthetic and pleasing to look at, and every shot is spectacular. But I don't think anything really has the cinematic scope that something like Big Hit's videos have. Speaking of Big Hit and YG, my next opinion is that YG isn't really in the big 3 anymore, and YG is not really going to be able to keep up with the other companies. Now, the reason I think this is because YG doesn't have a ton of groups right now, and their biggest, most successful group is Blackpink. Now, Blackpink hasn't had a comeback in almost a year, and I'm sure they will have a comeback soon because it's about scheduled for it. But anyone who thinks that YG is doing this on purpose, maybe they are, but it's not a good business move. YG's terrible at managing themselves, and of course they have Blackpink and they have iKON, but I just don't really see them going anywhere. The stuff that they're making isn't pushing the envelope. Now, I'm not blaming that on Blackpink, I still love the girls, but the music itself isn't really pushing the envelope at all. Back when YG had stuff like 21, that was like futuristic and pushing the envelope. Now we just have Blackpink making the same song over and over again. It's not really pushing the envelope, and it doesn't say anything. SM isn't going anywhere. They have a huge amount of money. They have EXO, Red Velvet, and a bunch of younger groups as well. It's kind of hard to even distract from SM. They're huge. They're enormous. But the thing about SM is that regardless of how they treat their idols, and that I don't agree with everything the company's done, they're always pushing the envelope in terms of sound. Every EXO song sounds different. Every Red Velvet song sounds different. Every time Red Velvet does a comeback, you get something like Zimzalabim, which isn't a good song in my opinion. But I will say that it's experimental and I respect it for existing. With something like JYP, again, they're not going anywhere. I get the vibes of longevity, and they have Twice, and now they have Stray Kids and ITZY, which are both huge hits, and they're not going anywhere. JYP is a solid company, and they actually treat their idols pretty well. Now, moving on to Big Hit, you have a company that's being held up by one group, but it's the biggest group in the world, and then comparatively YG, you could say they're being held up by Blackpink, but that's not a good thing. So, the problem with Blackpink is that, yes, they're extremely successful when they do make comebacks, they make waves, they're marketable, but the problem is that they're not pushing the envelope whatsoever. BTS is still doing new concepts every time, and I'm not going to be sitting here and pretending that YG isn't good and they don't make good music, but the problem is that they're just not pushing the envelope anymore. They don't feel innovative, and they feel like they're not able to keep up with, honestly, JYP, SM, and Big Hit. And I have to say that, noticing this about YG, it's because of their own shoddy management. And before anyone starts going on about Big Hit and saying that BTS is enlisting, so that's a problem, I understand what your concern would be regarding that, and I totally get it. It's a mood. But the point is that, first of all, BTS isn't going to disband. They're going to be around for at least 7 more years, probably, whereas Blackpink's contract expires in 3 years. Now, they could renew. I don't really want them to because of the way YG has treated them, and that does concern me. So I don't really want Blackpink to renew their contract. I think that Jennie and even Rose could be really successful soloists, and Jisoo should go into acting because that's what she wanted to do in the first place. I think Blackpink and working with YG will have been great experience for all of them, but I think they should re-sign under another company as soloists soon. That's at least my opinion. Now, I will say that, like I said, BTS isn't going to split up, even though they might have, you know, some people leaving for enlistment. I mean, EXO's had people in the army for months now, and they still release music. Which, I mean, I guess that's a good strategy. No, it's not. It's a neutral strategy. I honestly don't really care. It's not that you guys want to give Jen any lines anyway. And before you yell at me, that was a joke. So, moving on. To my next opinion, which kind of relates to the last one, which is that pushing westernization isn't helping. It's not going to work. So YG has tried to do this with Blackpink so many times at this point, and they've tried to westernize it. Kill This Love was very, very westernized. I know people get on me and will say, oh, Bombo Chocolat was westernized too. That was a debut song, and they were trying to make it marketable, and but Blackpink was Kill This Love was trying to be a honestly marketable version of something like Do 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 Do, which was already a marketable version of Umbaya. So I really have trouble listening to something like Kill This Love and not realizing that it's like 70% English, which isn't a bad thing necessarily. I'm not against English versions, but it feels like it's westernized. And they're doing it on purpose just so people will listen to the music. And it feels like they're trying to push Blackpink on the West. None of them speak English and they're not comfortable with it. It's not like they're ambassadors. Whereas with BTS, yes, they've made songs that you can consider westernized. You can come down my throat and say Idol and Boy With Love are westernized all you want. Yes, Boy With Love has Halsey on it. And yes, BTS collaborates with Western artists, which isn't a problem. Blackpink does it too. But I will say that the song Idol is literally about them being Korean idols. I don't understand how people think it's westernized. Is it the sound? I don't understand how it sounds different from other K-pop songs. I've heard songs that sound like Idol, so I don't understand why Idol is quote-unquote westernized. Now, again, RM said that they weren't going to make an album in English because they're not going to compromise their artistic integrity. Now, Blackpink doesn't have any control over the songwriting process, but YG is pushing this westernized image on them and trying to get them into the public eye westernized, which is honestly sad. YG needs to stop trying to push this on Blackpink, and and other companies need to stop doing it too. Trying to force westernization on anyone is stupid. And yeah, I don't see BTS giving up their artistic integrity anytime soon. And yeah, I know the company could decide to do something stupid, but first of all, I don't think Big Hit is a stupid company. And second of all, Big Hit's being held up by BTS. So I don't think them making a decision like that, which would go against their wishes, would be a smart idea. I really don't have anything else to say other than this is all I have to say. It's just kind of how it is. And at the end of the day, Stop shoving westernization down people's throats. People will like what they like. People like BTS because they're universally popular. They have lots of different sounds. There's something for everyone. The members are fun and endearing. People don't like BTS because they want to sing in English or because RM speaks English. If you like BTS because RM speaks English, then seriously, what the fuck is wrong with you? I mean, yes, it's great and cute when RM does speak English, but that's not the point, okay? Next opinion I have is basically that YG needs to be like JYP or even Big Hit, because YG is just, I know SM has its own set of problems, but YG, just the way they treat their idols and the way they're just, their management is shitty, like I said. YG needs to be managed like SM, but treat their idols like JYP and Big Hit. And we're at this point where it's like, YG, guys, you're driving me crazy. Like, again, I think all companies should treat their idols better, including SM. But JYP, they do tend to care for the idols. They're definitely not perfect. They overwork twice. There are things that they have done which I disagree with as a company. But generally speaking, they're a much better company in terms of the way they treat their idols. And if YG was like that, then maybe they wouldn't feel like they're forcing so much stuff, and maybe they wouldn't be having so much trouble as a business if they just let Blackpink breathe. And by breathe, I don't mean let them disappear for a year. Let them make music they're comfortable making, and let them breathe and not be this whole idol. I don't get it. It's annoying. But that's all I really have to say, is stop forcing these unrealistic standards on your idols, especially SM with the body standards in the stop pushing that on your idols. YG needs to stop pushing the training on their idols, stop pushing and that intense level of training, and I do think in general idols need to stop being recruited so young, but YG's management is shit, and their treatment of humans is also kind of bad, especially with Blackpink and, 21, but I'll get to that. Next one is that EXO isn't neglected. So going away from YG for a minute, talk about SM. EXO is not neglected. The fact that EXO has new songs and they have people, or they had a new song, and they have people who've enlisted. They have so many different songs. The thing about EXO is that they have 5 albums or something. All of their stuff, they're an older group, and SM has a shit ton of groups to keep up with. So it's not like Big Hit where they have 1, now 2, maybe 3 in the future groups to promote. Which, you have EXO. And of course you have all these other groups. EXO's a not really senior group, but kind of a senior group at this point. They're older. And they're really talented, and I don't think they've been neglected at all. You can say, you can talk about favoritism, you can talk about human rights issues with SM, but EXO in and of itself has not been neglected. Now, I could argue that certain members have gotten more stuff with the Super M project and all that, but it's just kind of how it goes. EXO's had plenty of comebacks. I don't know why y'all were freaking out. Oh, there was a year between Coco Bop and Love Shot. So what? There were other groups that SM had to make comebacks for. BTS just had a 10-month hiatus. It wasn't even a hiatus, but you get the point. And no one freaked out, even though Big Hit was a company that could promote BTS all the fuck they wanted. That was because they were working on Map of the Soul 7, and it took time, because art is a thing. Now, compared to YG, which, no, Blackpink songs are not taking that long to make. Stop lying to us. Alright, but it's extremely frustrating at this point. It's tiring to see all these groups, all these people complaining about EXO getting neglected, and EXO stans getting neglected. Guys, just because a different group ended up surpassing EXO's success off their own merit doesn't mean that EXO is neglected or doesn't deserve success. I don't understand it. EXO's awesome. Their comebacks are all different. Their sounds great. Their songs sound great. I really don't understand why people are complaining about EXO being neglected. And honestly, EXO stans in general need to calm down. It's quite stressful to see these people come up with all these arguments when there isn't even a problem. You're creating a problem where a problem doesn't exist, and you're trying to make a competition and compare BTS and EXO, and it's just, there's no point. It's tiring. The next argument relating to this is that SM is still pushing the envelope. SM, musically, like I said, I touched on this earlier, but the stuff that they make is still so diverse, and they're still pushing the envelope musically. Now, I'm not saying they're a great company in terms of how they treat people, but the fact that, we still get experimental, interesting songs like Tempo or Zamzalab, and whether they're good or not, is going to show. We wouldn't get something like that from YG at this point. And that the fact that SM is still pushing the envelope and is still on top after all these years is honestly admirable, even if the company does have some shady stuff going on. The next opinion at number 9 isn't even really an opinion, it's a fact that Blackpink need help. So people look at this and they're like, oh, Blackpink, they haven't had a comeback and all that. I'm not even worried about them in terms of having a comeback. And musically, I've touched on that YG can't, the music is problematic, and it's just frustrating. And, that it's the same music over and over. But in terms of the way they're being treated, they're not the same energy they had at debut. They have so much potential. YG is mistreating them. They don't have the same energy they had at debut, and I can tell this just from watching the way they behave and their body language, and clearly everything's going on. The Jennie hate needs to stop. It's honestly disgusting. The fact that so many people hate on her, and the fact that Jennie had to read those comments. And they're just really treating Blackpink like a product. They're treating them like models, which is not a good thing. I don't think models are treated well either. And they're basically treating them like a marketable product and advertisement people, and that's it. They don't treat them like artists, they don't treat them like humans. And the fact that Blackpink is neglected, I really, really want them to get out of their contract in 2023. So, like I said, there's no longevity there, and then YG is left without their biggest group. So that's why I have a feeling that they're going to be going somewhere soon. Adding to what I was saying earlier, Big Hit does now have TXT and G-Friend sort of working with them, and also now there's, they're probably going to be debuting a girl group soon. I'm honestly super intrigued, because I just want to see, like, what a Big Hit girl group would even look like. Next one is going to be, that Bad Boy is better than Psycho. I know I've heard people say Psycho's better than Bad Boy, but Bad Boy is better than Psycho. And this is something completely subjective, but like, I'm not even a huge Red Velvet stan. I do like Red Velvet, but not all the stuff is my cup of tea. But Bad Boy is a jam. That song is amazing, and all the people who say that Psycho is better, I do like the synth and I do like the vibe of Psycho, but dude, Bad Boy is such a cleanly produced gem. Psycho honestly feels a bit noisy for what it's trying to do. And yeah, really, Bad Boy exists. It sure exists, doesn't it? It's annoying as fuck, but it's super catchy. Next opinion is relating to this one, and basically it's just In and Out deserves more attention. By Red Velvet, In and Out by Red Velvet, that song deserves so much attention. And, the next opinion has to do with G-Idol, and it's that Uh-Oh is their best comeback. I see a lot of people talking about their debut, talk about Latata, and a lot of people talk about their comebacks. Like, they say Senorita was disappointing or whatever, and they talk about Lion, which is a good song, but I think Uh-Oh takes the cake for just being such a catchy jam as a comeback. And relating to that opinion, my other opinion on G-Idol is that their B-sides are honestly better than their title tracks. Like, we have songs like Dollar, and like, Light My Fire, and some of their B-sides are just really solid. So, with the exception of Uh-Oh, which is their best song. So, the next one I have is going back to YG being shitty, that 21 was completely mismanaged. And I don't think this is an opinion, I think this is a fact, but I wanted to get it off my chest anyway. And you could go on about FX being mismanaged. I'm not even going to talk about FX right now, but I will have to say that 21, terrible mismanagement. And the whole situation with, Park Bom and her meds is disgusting. I'm glad CL finally left YG, because I love CL, and I am very glad that she just left YG, because she clearly wasn't doing well. The mismanagement, the horrible mismanagement of 21 regarding the Park Bom drug scandal was fucking stupid, and the whole thing was just, oh, let's disband the group. It was a mess, and honestly, I'm afraid Blackpink is being mismanaged the way 21 was, and that terrifies me. My next opinion is that Kpop sucks. I'm sorry, the company, Kpop, it's not the worst company out there, but, the dating rules and breaking people up, and that's annoying as fuck, and honestly, they completely mismanaged CLC. Like, they did not know how to manage CLC. And yeah, they did it in favor of G-Idol, but, which I stand them as well, but the CLC just, they terribly mismanaged them. I mean, for a minute disbanded, and then CLC happened, and then Pentagon, and the whole thing was a mess. So I don't really have much else to say other than Cube doesn't know how to manage for shit. They're probably better managing than YG, but not much. Next opinion is that companies need to stop shoving the dating bans on their idols after a certain amount of time. So I understand at the beginning, if a company, if at the beginning there's a dating ban because they're trying to train, or they're pre-debut and they don't want them to be out in public or whatever, I get that. But once they're debuted, I don't understand whatever. Which YG in theory has a good practice on this, because once you're debuted, you're supposed to be able to date freely. But then there was the whole thing with Jennie, and of course that happened. And when that happened, it was a thing, all right, and they clearly were broken up. It's crazy, and the fact that Jennie wasn't allowed to date, even though she was technically allowed to date, and she got broken up, is stupid. So honestly, that's annoying. So if you have a rule like that, please stick to it and let your idols date freely, for the love of God. And yes, that includes homosexual relationships. The next opinions I have are all about BTS, and they kind of go together. So it's the next one. So is that DNA is a top 5 title track. Honestly, I've seen so many people say they don't like it, which is ridiculous. Idol isn't westernized. I already touched on that. And Boy With Love is good but frustrating. I love that song, but what's frustrating about it is how accessible it is. I don't want to use the word westernized, but how accessible it is, not because of Halsey. None of the critics I know who actually like that song like it because of Halsey. But the problem is that I've seen way too many people who like that song and only that song, and it's quite frankly getting annoying when people just like Boy With Love, and that's the only song they like, and it gets really annoying. And moving on to Blackpink. Is that and this is a really unpopular opinion right here, but Square Up was their best era. I said it, with the exception of See You Later, but we don't talk about that song. We don't talk about her here, sis, but Square Up, but honestly, really is a great song. Do 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 and Forever Young are my favorite Blackpink songs, and they're never going to top Do 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 using the Teddy formula, so they need to stop trying. They need to get a new producer and just do something different, because every song now will pale in comparison to Do 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 Do. Now, I understand Boomba did it first, but Do 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 did it best, and every song that comes out after that, which follows the same formula, which honestly is why I'm not excited for a Blackpink comeback, is honestly going to just be an inferior version of Do 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 Do. And they'll never top it, so they should stop trying. Back to BTS, Fake Love is 100% better than Blood, Sweat, and Tears. Now, don't get me wrong, I love Blood, Sweat, and Tears. Y'all can come at me. Blood, Sweat, and Tears is amazing, and let's not forget Spring Day exists, because sis, she's literally top 3, and I forget she exists. But, Blood, Sweat, and Tears is an amazing song, and it's iconic, and we wouldn't be where we are without Blood, Sweat, and Tears, but there's something about Fake Love that really hits different. I love the opening, the singing, the harmonies, and the entire song, the guitar, and the choreo is one of my favorites, as well as the video. I adore the video to that song. I'm not no knock to the Blood, Sweat, and Tears video, but dude, the video for Fake Love is so aesthetic. I love the opening with the silhouettes and the statue in the background. Honestly, everyone sounds really great on that song. I mean, Jungkook sounds so great on it. And my favorite part is the part where RM and Jungkook share lines like that, back and forth. There's a part toward the end where V and Jimin are singing at the same time and they're harmonizing. It honestly gives me chills every time. They sound so good together. Like I said, it was at the song. You've got Jen. Jen has lines. The entire song is just amazing, and the mood and just the vibe of the song. And my favorite line, one of my favorite lines ever is, "I don't know me, who are you?" Honestly, oh fuck. But yeah, that song is amazing. And anyone who's coming at me and says, "Oh, Blood, Sweat, and Tears is better," that's your opinion. My opinion is Fake Love is my favorite title track from BTS. And my next opinion is kind of a long one, is that you're not special for liking underrated groups. Basically, it's just like, oh, if you stand an underrated group, people will say, "Oh, you're not special." And it's like, or, "Oh, you're special," or "We deserve special treatment." This kind of happens with like rock groups. If you stand like an underground rock group, you're like special now, and it's really fucking annoying. I have to say that because it really gets under my skin. Now, I think rock groups, it's kind of the same thing, but with K-pop, it's like, oh, you stand groups that are underrated. And then if someone just stands BTS and Blackpink, that's a problem. It's like, I don't understand why that's a problem. First of all, you should be glad they're into K-pop. Blackpink's really accessible, as much as they were the first group I stand, even though, looking back, I don't know if I really stand them anymore, and I have a lot of issues with them. They were the first group I stand, and because they're so darn accessible. With the exception of FX, but, FX was that group that got me into K-pop. Blackpink was the first group I kind of stand, and BTS, I mean, they're popular for a reason. I literally touched on that, why they're popular earlier. There's music for everyone. They have different styles. The members all have distinct personalities. They feel real humans, and like there's a close bond with them, unlike some groups where I just kind of feel like there's a bunch of people just sitting there. And honestly, the fact that you feel like real humans and they're so humble even after all the success is great. And BTS is super satisfying, and they are extremely popular for a reason. So people who only stand Blackpink and BTS, I'm not saying they shouldn't get into more groups, and I'm not saying you can't politely recommend a group to someone. That's absolutely fine. If you're enthusiastic about a group you like, an underrated group you like, heck yes, recommend them. But please, please don't shove it down people's throats, and don't say you're a better person for standing under an underrated group. It's hard to get into groups and stand them. I only really stand BTS and Blackpink and Everglow a little bit, but the problem is there are many, many groups that I listen to and I love their songs, like Dreamcatcher, but I don't know all the members, and I'm not at the point where I can count them and say, oh, that's who's singing. Not saying I won't get to that point, because I definitely would love to stand them, but it's just that standing takes time and trying to keep track of all the members in a group. Honestly, I'm put off by boy groups more because they have so many members. Most of the boy groups I've watched have literally 5 to 13 members, and that's just too much for me to keep track of. Yeah, on the low end we have 5. Probably the next one I'll try to stand is TXT, just because it's easy, because there's only 5 of them, which still isn't easy, because, but it took me forever to even figure out who was who in Blackpink, I'm not even gonna lie. So, standing is hard, and you're not special for standing Wiki Miki. Like, you're not, I'm sorry. Like, whatever underrated group you stan, that's awesome, great for you. You can recommend them to other people, but there's a lot of people who casually enjoy songs, don't stan a group, or if they do stan a group, that's fine, but if they stan a popular group, that's also fine. The group is popular for a reason. You don't have to like a group because they're popular, but you're allowed to, and people throw the term overrated around all the time. Somebody like Billie Eilish, people hate on her just because she's popular, and they say she's overrated. No, she's not overrated. Saying someone's overrated implies they don't deserve the success they got. Now, if you think Billie Eilish, if you're not into her music, that's totally valid, and you're allowed to say, oh, I don't like Billie Eilish's music. Same thing with BTS, if you want to say that. If you don't like BTS music, that's perfectly valid. But when you go down the rabbit hole and start saying, oh, it's overrated, they don't deserve their success, that's annoying as fuck, honestly. So, with all of that said about underrated groups, please listen to Dreamcatcher. Oh my god, Dreamcatcher is, like, so cool. Again, I would never force a group on anyone, but Dreamcatcher is so cool. And I adore, them. They are absolutely, the music is so cool. Piri quickly became, like, one of my favorite Dreamcatcher songs. Dude, all of their stuff slaps. Full Moon is such a good song, honestly. And, of course, Chase Me is iconic. Something like Good Night, I adore that song to death. Deja Vu is amazing. All of their songs are amazing, and Scream is good too. Their new song is Scream, it's really good. So, Dreamcatcher, they're just really, it's unique. There isn't really anything else like that coming out in K-pop, and man, I am here for it, sis! My next opinion is kind of gonna be kind of controversial, but not really, is that Everglow or ITZY will replace Blackpink. And before you mean that, I'm like, the fact that Blackpink is literally a top 3 girl group, you know, they're the last gen girl group. We have Red Velvet and Twice, of course, but the fact that Blackpink is literally a top 3 girl group and they have 13 songs is pathetic, YG. Not blaming the girls again, but YG, that's fucking pathetic. But, so, what I have to say about this is that Everglow's a rookie group and they already have 10 songs. ITZY's a rookie group and they already have 12 songs. Now, ITZY's doing more of a teen crush concept, and it's kind of a unique version of the girl crush concept. Blackpink were definitely older and more mature vibed when they debuted than ITZY, which is perfectly fine. ITZY to me is like the perfect blend of Blackpink and Twice, if that makes any sense whatsoever. I don't think ITZY is like Twice at all, but I think they have some elements which make them have that more cute vibe or that teen concept, which honestly is cute. So if you mix Blackpink and Twice, you'd get ITZY, and then Red Velvet is its own thing entirely. But I have to say, ITZY, I can see them replacing Blackpink, but because they're a big 3 company now. Everglow isn't, but Everglow just has very similar vibes to Blackpink. They're solid, their music is all really good. In fact, I think their music is better than Blackpink's. They already have 10 songs, like I said. They have marketable success. They have stuff like Adios, which is just the good version of Kill This Love. And yeah, I don't think it can really be understated. I feel like one of those groups, G-Idol, again, I kind of feel like G-Idol is the Red Velvet of this generation. They're doing their own thing, if that makes sense. They do different concepts, they're experimental, and I respect them for that, but I don't really see them coming in to replace Blackpink. So I kind of feel like if I had to put a number on it, Everglow's the Blackpink of this generation, G-Idol the Red Velvet, and ITZY the Twice, but better. No offense, I don't like Twice. But that's my honest opinion. So yeah, I definitely think Everglow would be the most practical successor to Blackpink. Just to make sense, Everglow should be the successor to Blackpink. I know you said, I know Blackpink is the successor to 21, and everyone can say that. The thing is that the next girl group that YG is going to debut is going to be a cute concept. Yay. But, so we're not going to be getting a successor to Blackpink from YG. And in terms of Big Hit's new group, we have no information on the girl group other than it's going to happen. And it could be literally anything, but I'm really hoping that it will be, you know, more in line with, you know, not a cute concept. But then again, if it's Big Hit, we know they can pull off multiple concepts. So hopefully this group will be full of talented people that can pull off multiple concepts, and it will just be nice and awesome. And honestly, I'm super hyped for it. So even though we have like no information right now, as of right now, I can't wait to see what happens, honestly. I'm so excited for that. But that's honestly 5th gen. We're talking 5th gen at this point. Big Hit's new group, YG's new group, YG's cute new group, whatever new group, you know, I know JYP and you know, I know G-Idol's not even a big 3 group, but it's one of the big 3 girl groups right now. So, again, sorry, YG. YG doesn't even have a group in a current group that's in the big 3. G-Idol and Everglow both are not big 3 groups, and they're literally 2 of the biggest girl groups right now. And of course, if Big Hit releases a girl group, that's going to be insane. So honestly, next generation, I'm looking at if YG decides to release a cute girl group and it actually comes out well, which it could. YG has a distinct style, but again, their management is absolute shit. So if we're already talking about Big Hit's group, that's next gen at this point. So for this current generation, Everglow are the queens of doing the same thing well. They're basically Blackpink. They do the same thing really, really well. Although their music is still more diverse than Blackpink, and they still have, you know, more comebacks than Blackpink, you know, in more frequent amount of time. ITZY is like twice gone wild. They're super cute, but they have this, like, you know, teen crush vibe about them too. ITZY is like twice gone wild. And of course, G-Idol was just completely doing its own thing, pushing the envelope, just making concepts that are so different and so cool. Kind of like Red Velvet. So for this generation, yeah. Everglow, the queens are doing the same thing. G-Idol are the queens of experimentation, and ITZY are the queens of cute and kawaii, and also being badass. So yeah. Honestly, this generation is great, but I can't wait for the next generation, and I'm honestly waiting to see who will debut a group first. I'm hoping it's Big Hit, but you get the point. Anyway, my last 2 opinions are about BTS, and I'm just gonna kind of keep this brief. So, I have 2 opinions here, which are both very controversial. One is that I don't always like Jungkook's vocals. Now hear me out. I'm not saying he isn't a good singer, because he is. And I do think he's the most well-rounded member of the group overall. The fact that he can rap, sing, and dance, most of them aren't that well-rounded, honestly. And I don't think he's, but in terms of singing, Jungkook has this thing where his falsetto is good, but I don't really like it. And the bridge that everyone's going crazy about in On, I don't really like it. It sounds high-pitched. It doesn't sound good to me. Now, a lot of people are going to get on my ass about it. I'm not saying it's not technically impressive, but it does not sound good to me. Something about it just feels off, even though the song is called On. But something about it, and I'm not saying he can't do killer parts. He absolutely can. Jungkook is amazing, and I love him. That's not the point. But the point is that he is just, I don't really know what to say about it, just other than that it sounds weird to me. And I can say this because I'm a huge fan of BTS and Jungkook, and honestly, it ain't it. It ain't it. Now, he's done some great singing parts, and he's a great singer. He's a stable vocalist, but that bridge, man, and that's just an example of what my problem with Jungkook is. And it's just that it's almost like he's over-singing and straining, which is awkward. And to quote Todd in the Shadows, a falsetto singing is something you have to get perfect, and if it's 98% there, it sounds horrible. And that's literally the vibe I get from Jungkook in that situation. 98%, very good, but still sounds horrible. And that's not his fault or anything, it's just how the nature of it. And I'm being picky. And the last opinion is basically that Jimin is at least as good as J-Hope, and that, like, he's my favorite dancer in BTS. Now, Jimin is my bias, so watch out. But I will say that, like, I think Jimin and J-Hope are both super talented, and they have different styles. Which honestly, Jimin's style is way more, just for me, way more interesting to watch. I'm just way more into it. Now, no shade to J-Hope, he's awesome. Don't shade him because he deserves attention. But that J-Hope is more, I guess, like, I don't know, hip hop, just more like, it's more about the power. It's like, I'm just gonna go for it. And Jimin's more about elegance. And I love his dancing so much. And honestly, it's a distinct style, and they both bring something distinct to the group. So I don't really think saying one is better than the other is fair, because I've seen countless people officially rank J-Hope is that better than Jimin, which is making me tired, because in my opinion, they're equally good, and Jimin is my favorite dancer ever, so yeah. Anyway, guys, that's about all I have for the video. If you liked it, click like, subscribe down below, ring the bell. And I'll see you all next time. All right, goodbye. Au revoir, adios.